Any questions?
I enjoyed that a lot. When you see a animal making what we would describe as a decision, a cat that could go anywhere in the house but picks a patch of sunlight, is that like a preliminary stage in the construction of an ontological creature?
There are different ways to answer that question. For Heidegger, in some ways really bizarrely, animals are worldless. They don't have access to the world the way that humans have access to the world because they don't formulate questions about themselves or have the possibility of inquiry that Heidegger says is related only to humans. Okay? So there are other kinds of things that animals can do. Animals can opt. Animals can act in ways that seem to care for their own being or to develop a world around themselves. But that world for Heidegger is not the kind of world that the being in the world of Dasein would have, right? There's an absence of language. He doesn't describe sounds that animals make as the same kind of language that humans have. And without that kind of language, it's difficult to form the kinds of inquiry that are necessary for an ontological understanding of being. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And I guess the last one, I'm kind of hitchhiking off ex machina now. As we develop artificial intelligence, is it practical to believe that we could create an ontological thinking machine?
I think that's an impossible goal to reach. Okay. Because I think that, and it goes back to what Heidegger talks about here, right? The being of beings is the kind of thing that remains concealed in an exceptional sense, right? It's that which gets covered up or shows itself only in a distorted way. And so, because that's the kind of being that the being of beings is, to have an ontological machine would be an impossibility, right? If it'd be divorced from world, its ontological structure would be utterly inhuman, right? It'd be utterly unknowable or unfamiliar to us. And at that point, the answer to life, the universe, and anything becomes 42, right? You can know that that's the answer, but the answer has no meaning. It doesn't generate any meaning from it. And if it were an ontological machine, its ontology wouldn't be helpful to us. Does that make sense as to why?
It does. And I guess the last question, if indeed we knew out at McBride that some machine through a black hole wormhole had come and there are some creatures moving around it, could they be ontological?
Can you ask the question again? Sorry.
If something other, I'm not even assuming that it's a carbon life form, but let's just say it's probably structured like us and can get to us, is there any way to design life that goes all the way to the level of human beings and working in language that could be ontological, but they communicate chemically?
Well, okay, so again, you can always have, beings always have this double structure.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there's ontic possibilities that are manifest in this actual one here, right? Versus an ontological structure that gives rise to a certain limited set of possibilities. That then again opens up larger, or in the most largest sense, to the structure of being itself as that which appears and is concealed, right? It's revealed and concealed in this oscillating sort of relationship. So there is an like they're going to be ontological beings because they're beings, right? And as beings, they have ontic manifestations of ontological possibilities. Okay. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, and they can be actually fancier or less fancy. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
But the level of fanciness is less important. I mean, for Heidegger, the real distinguishing, determining value of Dasein is that it can ask about its own being. It can care about its own being. And that level of care and concern and that kind of inquiry about it is what makes it closest to the question of being. But in others, like ontically, right? But ontologically, it's just as far away. questions? Points of clarification, lingering confusion? All right.
Very much.
Thank you for coming.